So in this video, I want to go through the derivatives of the four other trigonometric functions. We already know that the derivative of sine x is cosine x. We already know that the derivative of cosine x is negative sine x. And in this video, we're picking up, well, first of all, these two. The derivative of tangent x is secant squared x. The derivative of cotangent x is negative cosecant squared x. So, memorize these, write them down, make flashcards, do what you need to do to get these two derivatives stuck in your minds. We're going to be using them. Then there are two more of them. Remember, there are 6 basic trig functions for us. So the next one, we need to know that the derivative of secant x is equal to secant x times tangent x. And then we also need to know that the derivative of cosecant x is negative cosecant x times cotangent x. It may seem like a lot to memorize. We just need to get it done, right? So get going on memorizing these things and working through them. One hint that I can remind you is that anytime you take the derivative of one of the co-functions, the derivative is negative. Derivative of cosine is negative sine. Derivative of cotangent is negative cosecant squared. The derivative of cosecant is negative cosecant x times cotangent x. There are a lot of other things that you'll notice about these, but I'd like you guys to find those as you're memorizing them and as you're looking at them and as you're looking for patterns. So here's an example of us using that, right? So if we want to find the derivative of secant x times, or secant x plus tangent x, the only rule we need here is the addition rule, which just says that when you take the derivative of two things added together, it's the derivative of the first one. The derivative of that first one is secant x tangent x plus the derivative of the second one. The derivative of tangent x is secant squared x. And do remember that when we take these derivatives, I would like us to always be thinking about factoring, right? So in what way could this thing be factored? Well, these things both have a secant x term in them. If I were to factor out secant x, I would be left with tangent x plus secant x. And there we go. That answer looks good to me. That's the derivative. Now in this problem, what I'm hoping that you'll notice is that sometimes these cosecant functions or tangent functions get wrapped up into a product rule, right? This is asking for the derivative of x times cosecant x, then minus some other thing. So we're going to need to use a product rule and then in the subtraction rule. This is one that I'd like you guys to try on your own. So pause the video, work through this, and we'll check our answers. So to do the product rule part, we'll take the derivative of the x and leave the cosecant x alone, plus, this time I'll leave the, then I'll leave the x alone, and I'll take the derivative of the cosecant part. Derivative of cosecant x is negative cosecant x times cotangent x. And then my subtraction rule, which is, minus 5 times the derivative of cotangent, which is negative cosecant squared x. Okay, so now I'll go through and pretty this up a little bit. My first term is just cosecant x. My next term is minus x cosecant x cotangent, not totangent, but cotangent. Let's see, cotangent x, and then plus 5 cosecant squared x. I hope you guys also noticed that there's a cosecant factor in all of these. So if I factor out the cosecant x, I'm left with 1 minus x cotangent x plus 5 cosecant x. And that's my derivative. Now last example, I want us to find h prime of x if h of x is cosecant x times cotangent x. This is another example of a product rule happening. So this again is one that I'd like you guys, to try on your own as much as you can. You'll probably need to refer back to, these derivatives because you don't have them memorized yet. But let's take a look at it. So again, hoping that you've done it on your own. The first thing I do is the derivative of cosecant, which is negative cosecant x cotangent x. Then I leave my cotangent x alone. Then we have plus. Now I'm leaving my cosecant x alone. And multiply by the derivative of cotangent x, which is negative cosecant x squared. And that got sort of crushed over there on the side, but hopefully we can sort of pretty it up a little bit. Let's see here, my h prime of x now. Let's see, my first term is negative. I have negative cosecant x cotangent squared x, because there were two of them. Then over here, minus, I have cosecant x times cosecant squared x. So in the end, I end up with cosecant cubed x. And then the last step I can take to make this a little bit prettier is to factor. And actually, they're both negative. I'm going to factor out a negative. I'll factor a negative cosecant x, and what I have left inside is cotangent squared x plus cosecant squared x, and that's my derivative. Okay, so long story short, memorize your derivatives. That means cotangent, cosecant, secant, and tangent. And also remember, we can use those with the product rule. Like this stuff all goes together. It all blends into how we take all derivatives.